Appreciate everybody's joining us. I thought we had a very productive meeting last time, our February meeting. And so we'll go ahead and call this March meeting of the Community Advisory Panel to order. And you've all been sent the minutes of the February 4th meeting. Does anyone have any changes in the record of what we did in that meeting? Well, if not, we'll just go ahead and record these as appreciate that. Tonight, and we'll go right to our presentation. We're really very blessed to have join us tonight Tiffany Martin. She's Vice President and Chief Customer Officer for KUB, and she's going to be discussing very important topic, supporting low-income customers and adjusting to meet customer needs, especially as arisen during the pandemic. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Martin right now, and look forward to your presentation, Tiffany.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Hopefully you guys can see my presentation. Great. Okay. Wonderful. As Bill mentioned, I am the Vice President and Chief Customer Officer here at KUB. So my responsibility, I'm part of the leadership team that works with the employees here at KUB that work directly with our customers. So today's presentation, I'm really going to focus on sharing some of the programs that we have in place to help our customers that are limited to low income, as well as talk about the things that we've put in place to support customers during the pandemic. As we all know, this has been a challenging year for individuals, families, and businesses. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that we put in place to help customers during this time. You guys may have questions during my presentation, so feel free to put those questions in the chat or hold them until the end of the presentation, and I will definitely leave enough time to address everyone's questions at the end of the presentation. I'll start by really just talking a little bit about our vision at KUB. Customer care is key to our mission and our vision. As you can see here, it clearly states that we exist to serve our customers. And we mean that. Every employee here at KUB has that responsibility and understands that their role is important in us achieving that vision and mission, and ultimately us being successful as a utility. So although we're a utility company, we're really only here to serve the customers that are in our community and service territory. So we work really hard to display that. We all understand that really safe and reliable utilities are important to homes and businesses in the community. And because of that, we really do focus on that portion of our business, but we also try to balance that with customer investments and programs and initiatives to really serve the community. And we know that sometimes that balance can be challenging, but we really try to work diligently to have a balance between being a true utility organization and then a customer servant in the community. A large majority of our employees are in fact tasked with the design, installation, operation, and maintenance of our utility systems, but we do have staff that really their job is that direct interface with our customers and meeting their needs. And so in these photographs that you guys see, that is just kind of a representation of some of the groups that work directly with customers and help them with their direct needs. And I'll talk a little bit about each of those areas briefly. About 10% of our workforce directly serves customers. And as I mentioned earlier, everybody at KUB serves customers, but these folks really have that as their primary function. Those employees are kind of split into three primary functions. So you've got the customer service function, the customer support and key account function, and then customer counseling. But regardless of the area that those folks are in, they're expected to provide pleasant and professional service. But beyond that, really be knowledgeable and be results oriented and make sure that those interactions go well with our customers. In the customer service area, it's probably the things that you traditionally think about with regard to customer service. We do have one local contact center here. So we have call center representatives or customer service professionals there that assist. And then we also have 2 walk-in centers in the community, one on Asheville Highway and the other on Western Avenue. And that customer service group also includes our back office payment processing staff and some of those back office functions that may not necessarily have day-to-day interactions, but they're working really hard to ensure customer payments and customer processes are working well. Obviously, those folks in the call center and in our walk-in centers are really there to answer and resolve customer questions, and that's pretty much on any topic that's available. So starting and stopping service, utility emergencies, billing questions, just really anything a customer might need, that is their first line of contact, and oftentimes the only line of contact that they have with us here. And then our customer support specialists that are in the field, they're really working to provide on-site visits. So that might be for adding a new utility service if we don't have existing services in an area. That might also be resolving a utility problem in or on or around a customer's property, as well as keeping the residents and businesses informed about utility projects that are happening. So whether those projects affect their utility service or they might affect the traffic flow or something in their neighborhood or business area, those folks are kind of that point of contact to keep customers informed. And then they also help serve some of our largest customers like the University of Tennessee, some of our local health facilities, and some of the large manufacturers in our area. They have kind of a single point of contact based on their size as a customer, and obviously they have lots of utility needs. The final group that I'll mention is our social services specialists, and those are a bit unique in the utility space. And they're really tasked with the important job of helping the most vulnerable customers and really see them through difficult times. And that's where we'll spend a lot of our time today. So I'll talk a little more in detail about the customer counseling or the social services staff because they spend a lot of their time doing the things that we'll talk about today and being involved with the programs that we'll speak of today. So as I mentioned, social services is a little unique to the utility space, and KUB was the first utility in the Southeast to employ social workers and the second in the nation. And those social workers started here in the actual 70s here at KUB. And that was really the leaders at KUB at that time really felt like there were lots of needs in our community that needed to be met. And so they wanted someone that had that expertise to be able to assist customers. And we currently have 2 degreed social workers on staff here at KUB, and both have several years of experience. And really, they spend a lot of their time partnering and collaborating with social services agencies and faith-based organizations in the KUB service territory to primarily keep utility services active for customers when they're in crisis, but they address a wide variety of things. Obviously, working with social service agencies, they're looking at the whole person and trying to direct them to the right set of assistance and needs that they may have, whether that be, they couldn't pay their utility bill due to illness or disability or job loss or a multitude of things that might arise. But ultimately, then some other agency may be able to help them beyond just us getting them the assistance they need with their utility bills. The counselors generally handle around 20,000 calls per year. And those are a variety of with the agencies and with the actual direct customers, trying to help them through whatever situation they may be facing. They also, from a partnership with the agency standpoint, try to provide information to those agencies and make it really easy for them to help their client base. So a lot of times those agencies are getting requests from their clients for utility bill assistance. And so back in 2011, KUB invested in putting together a charitable agency portal that allows those approved agencies to log in and see client bills, their utility consumption, their payment history, and it really just helps them get an understanding of what's going on with that customer. And they are allowed to assist that customer without needing to make a phone call to our counselors. And we've seen that be a useful tool for the partner agencies that we work with. They're also inside that portal, agencies are also able to add payments or pledges to client accounts. So that really helps expedite that process for a customer that is really in dire need and worried about losing utility service. And so we found that to be a big benefit to us, the agencies, and ultimately the customers. In addition to working really closely with the agencies, our customer counselors also administer some of our special assistance programs, such as our medical priority program, which is essentially a program for customers that have life-saving medical equipment in their home. So they've gone through a process with their physician and with our counselors to identify their home as a home that would need additional notice if there was going to be a planned outage in their area, as well as may need additional support if they're unable to make their utility bill and they may lose services. So the counselors work closely with those customers. As well as another program that they manage is our Gatekeeper program, which helps seniors that may live alone or may not be being cared for well, that our employees may interact with either in the field on a site visit or over the phone. And so the employees are able to refer those seniors to the Gatekeeper program. And then ultimately, the counselors are connecting those seniors with help they may need. The counselors also work really hard to educate customers. They are generally out at community education sessions, or meetings. They set up booths and speak at events. Obviously, the pandemic has changed that significantly, but they're chomping at the bit to get back out there as the virus lessens and more people are vaccinated. But some of the examples of things that they did pre-pandemic that they're looking forward to getting back to is assisting with KCDC briefings. So as a KCDC participant receives a voucher, they do go and actually meet with those participants, talk about utility use, talk about how to select a home, and then check the utility bills to make sure that they're making the best decision when they're selecting a property. They also work really closely with Head Start and Department of Children's Services. It's just a multitude of agencies that they spend their time working with to make sure they can serve our customers' needs. And then finally, obviously, they're helping with utility bills and connecting people with the right partners, but they spend a lot of time processing financial aid from local and federal agencies. So they work with so many agencies. Here's really just a real snippet of some of the agencies they work with. I mentioned some already, and as you can see, even some hospitals are listed here. So they really are involved in a wide range of agencies to meet the varied needs of our customers and ensure that they are able to be served. One other program that I'll talk about, and I'll spend more time on this evening, that the counselors are heavily involved with, is our Project Help program. And that program provides emergency utility bill assistance for low-income customers, and it's been in existence for almost 40 years. It was organized by KUB's general manager at the time and CAC's executive director. And Both of those leaders really just saw that the federal funding that was available at the time for bill assistance wasn't meeting all the needs, and they knew that something needed to help. So this program was established because of that. And it actually is governed by a community board. So it's not really a program that KUB runs nor CAC runs. They both participate, but the community actually governs this program. It's an 11 to 15 member board, and the funds are completely funded through community or customer donation. So there's a couple ways that someone can contribute. That can be on a regular recurring monthly contribution on your KUB bill. We also have annual campaigns with community partners of Food City and Home Federal. And during the month of January each year, those partners allow their customers to provide donations that then go to the Project Help participants. And then just general one-time donations that individuals and businesses like to contribute. And so 100% of those donations do go to assist customers. So the staff at CAC and KUB provide their services in kind to help manage this process, because the ultimate goal is to make sure those customers that need assistance are receiving it. So in 2020, just to kind of give you an idea of the impact of the program, almost 500 individuals and families were served through Project Help, and with about $230,000. And 2020 was, as I've said before, and as I think we all know, was just an unprecedented year where lots of need was there. And so the Project Help board filled the gap there. And what I mean by that is they reduced the income requirements for the program. They increased the benefit amount to make sure more people could be assisted, which really led to those 500 individuals and families being served, which is about 100 more than what we would serve in a typical year through Project Help.
Tiffany, could I interrupt you just a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Wondering, how do people become aware of the program? What is the method that brings that about?
That's a great question. So during the campaign, there are lots of advertisements that happen with some of our media partners. WVLT, IVK will promote the program during that time. But we also at KUB provide promotional materials a couple times a year through bill stuffers, and then also provide information on our social media pages as we see people have needs. And then, of course, CAC helps with the intake of individuals and families. And so as they are assessing someone's need, maybe even in a different program at CAC, they will then direct someone to the Project Help program. So that's a great question. Did that answer for you, Bill?
Sure, that did. And I think you did mention this, but you saw somewhat of an upswing in people needing assistance this year, and the amount they needed to, I believe, right?
Absolutely, we did. And so the Project Help board really just filled that gap so much by making sure that they were reducing those income requirements so more people could be served, because that need was greater. So individuals that maybe in the past would have not needed assistance, but they had a job loss or a temporary furlough of some sort. So this allowed them to be eligible for those funds, and then the benefit amount was increased to meet greater needs. So it was definitely a help from that committee or board to make those changes.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Project Help really meets kind of customers' needs in crisis. So of course, I need a utility bill paid, so they're in a crisis situation. But KUB, the city of Knoxville, and CAC, TVA, other partners that we work with recognize that there really just needed to be some long-term sustainable solutions to reduce energy costs for low-income customers. Many of those customers that go through Project Help or other assistance programs live in energy inefficient homes. And so their homes really could benefit from upgrades and home weatherization, but obviously they would not necessarily have the funding for that. And so as a result of that, KUB established its Rounded Up program, and then the Knoxville Extreme Energy Makeover program was established back in 2015. And the city Office of Sustainability really helped implement that program. And Erin and her staff at that time were excellent and really trying to make sure that this need was met in the community. It was a 2-year program, so from 2015 to 2017, and the funding was provided by TVA at that time. It was a $15 million investment, and nearly 1,300 homes were weatherized during that time. And it really had a significant impact on the community and showed just the partnership between the city, KUB, CAC, the Alliance to Save Energy was also involved during that time to really just make sure that we could make homes that were energy inefficient more efficient and reduce the energy burden for those customers. Now, KEEM ended in 2017, but that work continues. So weatherization work continues as KUB's Rounded Up program. That program was also established in 2015, and it has provided home energy upgrades to over 500 homes. And that funding initially just came from customer donations, so KUB customer donations. And how that works is about 53% of our customers round up their utility bill to the next whole dollar. And that money is provided for home weatherization. So that equates to about $600,000 to $700,000 a year for home weatherization. And then TVA, once again, committed to providing funding at a level at about $360,000 per year. And then recently, KUB, we've committed in July of 2020 to making $1 million investment in weatherization because we know how critical it is to assist our low-income customers. And then we're really excited about recently the Tennessee Department of Energy and Conservation offered us a 2-year grant totaling $750,000 across those 2 years for weatherization. So with the customer donations, TVA's contribution, KUB's investment, and this new grant from TDEC, that's about $2.3 million over the next 2 years that will be available to weatherize. We're thinking a little over 200 homes a year for low-income renters or homeowners, and we're really excited about that. Obviously, work has slowed a bit on home weatherization due to the pandemic. Many homeowners and renters don't want unfamiliar contractors in their home right now, but as customers are comfortable with us coming in, we plan to continue this work because we have seen success in it lowering energy bills, and we want to make sure that those folks that are on our waiting list are able to receive assistance. And when you think about kind of the energy consumption and the bill impacts, 78% of the customers that have had their home weatherized through Rounded Up actually did see a reduction in energy use. And if you'll look on the chart on the left, this shows that prior to the weatherization, they were using on average about a little over 1,200 kilowatt hours. After the weatherization, they were using around 1,000. And then they're even lower than what the typical average is for most homes within KUB's electric customer set. So it's definitely made an impact. And then of course that equates to bill savings. So around $225 savings on average across the year for those customers, which can be very helpful when you're on a very tight budget and every dollar and every penny counts. Now, there were customers that in the study that we did as we've looked at these homes and their consumption and billing, that it did experience a little bit of an increase in their bills. And what we found in those instances is those were customers that would have had an installation of a heating and air unit or some type of appliance that they didn't have before that they were now using. And for those customers, what was most important to them is the additional comfort that they had. So they weren't living in one room with a single window air conditioning or with a space heater. They were actually able to enjoy their full home. And so to them, comfort also was a success story. And many of them were comfortable with a slightly increased cost for additional comfort. So we really feel like that was a win for our customers. And while, reductions have been achieved through the energy portion of the bill, what we started seeing here at KUB is there weren't any programs to address water and wastewater costs, which is, of course, part of your total utility bill. And so in 2020, we did establish the toilet replacement program. And that program is really intended to replace high flow toilets. Those toilets are directly installed. Those toilets are replaced, with directly installed low flow toilets. And the intent is really to reduce that water and wastewater portion of the bill. So $500,000 has been committed annually for the purchase and installation of the toilets. And toilets were really selected because we often see customers call us with high water use, and it's either due to a leaking toilet or a higher flush toilet. And so we thought we would start there to help really have impact on the water and wastewater bills. But there are other measures that are installed during those installations. So low flow faucet aerators and shower head aerators are also installed. If there are small water leaks found during the inspection and installation process, those repairs are made. And we just really appreciate our partners at CAC for administering this program. And so, Ms. Kelly, we really appreciate your team's efforts and expertise and qualifying candidates, inspecting their homes, and managing the contractors that complete the work. And then once again, just another partnership with us and CAC and TVA. TVA does provide some energy savings measures, such as LED bulbs and weather stripping, to be installed while those installers are there. And really the intent is there are lots of people on that waiting list for weatherization. And so as we can help with small measures, we are trying to do that in homes until others can be put on the list and their homes can be weatherized on the energy side of things.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. I'll, if you don't mind, Tiffany,
Sure.
I'll jump in with. One, you believe you answered to Steve's, who had wondered about the average energy savings, but Christina has a couple of questions about
everywhere else in our school. I'm fighting for that, and I do it every day. And it's not just
Was there a question or?
Well, I'm not sure about, might miss something there, but Christina had a question about KUB's evaluation of weatherization tactics and approaches, which ones are cost effective, and also how long are the wait lists?
Gotcha. Those are great questions, Christina. So the evaluation is really used from some Department of Energy standards. And so the home is assessed and they look to see which things can be changed that would have the most impact on energy consumption. So there's a formula, there's a pretty detailed process, and the Department of Energy standards are used to determine that. And then it looks like the other question is about the waiting list. So the wait list currently for the Rounded Up program, there are a little over 3,000 customers on that wait list. So as you can see, the list is significant, and it usually takes around $10,000 per home. So with the funding that we have, we obviously want to knock a dent into that waiting list, but we're always looking for opportunities to find additional funding.
Okay,
and
thank you.
I covered those questions. I'll try to put the chat up here so I can stop and grab them as I can for you guys. Thank y'all for putting questions in the chat for me. So related back to talking a little bit more detail about the toilet replacement, that program just started in July of 2020. So in the middle of the pandemic, we really didn't start installing or really meeting with customers until October. And so since that time, they're up through February. There have been 11 homes assisted with 13 toilet installations, as well as all the other measures that we talked about. So obviously this has been slow, but we are certain that volume is going to pick up. And we're also evaluating other ways that we can help with water savings that ultimately help with the water and wastewater portion of the bill, so customers can get the maximum benefit of the investment that's being made there. So our goal is to just continue doing that. And hopefully soon, as I mentioned earlier, things will open up and we'll have the opportunity to get into more homes and help more customers.
Aaron had also had pointed out that how much this program has grown since it began and prior to it with the whole TVA involvement, and how many more homes have been covered. Aaron, would you like to share any of that further with the group?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hey everyone, and Tiffany, I love seeing all these aggregate impacts because when we first started talking about this back in 2013, we were roughly receiving $300,000 from DOE. And we are now, what you said, 2.5 million every year. I will say that when we sat around a room with stakeholders back when we first began that level of investment annually was like beyond our stretch goal. Our stretch goal was 1 million, and here we are, double that. So it's just really a testament to the sustainable partnership that we've seen develop over this issue.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you guys for just being partners with us. And like you said, all those stakeholders really understanding how important this is and finding ways to find that funding to assist customers. So I will kind of move on to another portion of things that we do to try to help customers. So we've at this point talked about kind of that emergency assistance for a utility bill. Then we've moved in kind of direct installation of energy and water efficiency measures. But we also recognize that lots of times having knowledge and the tools necessary to make your own improvements is important. So there's also an education component to several of our programs that really started back when the KEEM program started, and alongside the Smarter Cities Partnership led by the city, with the Savings in the Home resource guide that was developed. And since then, that has been expanded into a larger workshop format that's presented by our field customer support specialists and our customer counselors. It includes interactive displays from TVA, and those displays really try to demonstrate the impact of proper insulation, door and window sealing, LED lighting, just a wide variety of things. And it also provides information on what are the highest energy and water users in your home and what things you can do to control those uses for really no cost. It's really just about having that knowledge and being able to make decisions about how you use your utilities. Participants also get to leave those sessions with take-home kits that include easy install items. So I mentioned the LED bulbs that go into the homes for the toilet replacement program. So this kit includes some of that. It also includes weather stripping. It includes some faucet aerators. So some of the similar smaller items that can be installed, that kit is sent home with participants for them to be able to install those items. So this larger education initiative started back in 2019, around the spring of 2019, and more than 1,300 individuals have completed workshops and been able to receive those kits with the savings measures. And we really wanted to reach out and partner with as many entities as we could. And so we did start working with SEED, Socially Equal energy efficient development, if you've not heard of SEED. And we work with them to offer those workshops in other communities, and then also their students. So they have a group of young adults that helped facilitate portions of the presentations. And really the intent there was to make sure that as many community members as possible were knowledgeable about energy and water efficiency, so that that information could spread about the community. And the great thing is TVA also saw the need to kind of start young, and they've created a curriculum for school-based children called Energy Monsters, and it obviously covers some of the same content. The students don't receive those energy saving measures, but they do learn about energy use and water use, and specifically energy use in their home. And we've participated in one of those sessions virtually. So all of that kind of kicked off during the pandemic, but we're hoping to do those in person when schools are back in session and youth groups are back together, as well as to do our adult sessions in person. We've done some of those virtually, but it really is a much richer experience when you're all together and in person to really see the demonstrated items. So we will continue to educate customers. If you follow us on social media, you may see some of those tips appear. We try our best to kind of impart that knowledge on individuals and families and children, as I said, to just make sure everybody understands ways to save without really making any financial investment. There are definitely some free ways to save. So I'll stop there and give you guys a moment to ask any questions that you might not have answered about some of these programs, because I'm going to transition to the pandemic portion of the presentation. Are there any other questions?
I guess I would have one I'd like your opinion on. You have the entire weatherization approach and also the approach of helping people with their bills. Which one do you think is really going to, in the long run, going to help people the most? I mean, if you had a point of emphasis there.
I would say weatherization. Our hope is that we can help individuals and families reduce their overall usage and make it more affordable for them by updating those homes that are energy inefficient. So I think that's a more sustainable solution. I think emergency bill assistance will always be there, but the goal would be to reduce that over time, and that really the energy burden is not as great because those homes have been weatherized.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question.
Sure.
All right, well,
I've got a question here.
Yes.
I noticed that you said there are 3,000 people on the waiting list and you do 200 homes a year. So to get through the waiting list would take about 15 years by my math. And my question for you is, have you evaluated how many homes are not on the waiting list, but nonetheless need the energy efficiency upgrades?
We have not done an analysis of homes in our service territory to determine how many might need to be on the list. That might be something we'll consider in the future, but obviously you're right, funding is limited. But as Aaron said, it was much limited in the past, and kind of the $1 million was a stretch goal. So to get to that over 200 homes a year is really a success. And I think we will continue to look for funding for weatherization. While those are our programs and the things that we know about, I know that there are other weatherization programs. And so that work is happening outside of these investments, but the need continues to be great. And so the goal is to continue to get as much funding as possible.
Well, thank you so much. We look forward to helping you find that funding.
Thank you.
I have a comment in that regard. I think you said it costs about $10,000 per home,
Yeah.
and the average annual payback is about $225 per home. So at least I guess another math thing here. It seems like the payback is about 44 years, which is maybe exceeds the life of some of these homes. I mean, it's just a comment. I don't know that there's a question there, but.
Yeah, and you're right. That average is a little over 200 a year, but we've seen some customers have significant savings, obviously. And then that ultimately removes the need for some of that assistance from an emergency bill assistance standpoint. So you're absolutely right. It's a huge investment, but the goal is that over time, that no matter who's in that home, they're benefiting from those reduced energy costs, and there's an impact on the environment with less production of energy resources as well. So the goal is.
I'm sorry. Is there any plans to maybe show some other data with that, maybe like medians, percentiles, and also anecdotally have customer sort of testimonials on how much better life is after the weatherization?
Yeah. So when we first started the program, we did definitely ask for customer feedback. And so we do have some examples of that. And I apologize that I didn't share that with you guys this evening. But you're right. A lot of customers shared the fact that they were more comfortable. Yes, their bills were reduced. And it also has some health benefits. And there are some partnerships and studies that we've tried to start participating in to really just learn all those impacts. So at some point, I'm sure we will have more data to share about the long-term impacts of weatherization efforts. But those are very good questions. I'm not sure if I quite answered your question about having more aggregate data or more specific data. We don't have that at this time, but I think over time, as we're learning more and looking for more funding, we will likely do that.
It'd be very interesting to see if you had here's a range of a house that really had the most savings, and how does that look? And then here's one on the lower end. And so 25th percentile, 75th percentile, and median. Because like you're indicating, the average is so blended,
right?
That it really might not encapsulate the power of the impact. You might find a more interesting statistic that then you can show on all of our bill pays that we feel more inclined to give more.
Sure, absolutely. That is a great suggestion, and I will definitely make a note about that and see if that's something that we can consider as we're thinking more about the program and funding. Looks like Amy had a question. Do you have weatherization programs for individuals who own or rent in multifamily housing? So currently it is for single family units. They're not for multifamily housing units at this time, but there are education opportunities in some of those multifamily units to just help educate the landlords and also the residents on ways that they can save. And then hopefully the owners will make weatherization updates for those larger units. Hopefully that's helpful, Amy.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about some of our pandemic relief efforts, and feel free to include questions in the chat as you have. Obviously, as the pandemic came in our area, we all were kind of unsure about what to expect and what to do, but at KUB, first and foremost, we continued to provide safe and reliable utilities. So we made sure that we took measures to keep our staff safe and well, and that they were going to be available to meet needs. We really knew at that time, more than anything, people are going home to do work. People are going home to do school. They've got to have utilities in their homes. Those businesses that are supporting them need their utilities as well. So the first step we took was ceasing our disconnection process for non-payment. So we didn't want customers to worry that I can't pay my utility bill. Oh no, I'm not going to have utilities. So we did that moratorium starting in mid-March. And then it continued for a 7-month period through mid-October. And what we found is that we were kind of one of the first in our area and close to one of the last to resume. But every utility kind of did a variety of things with regard to disconnections. And so we were among the group that tried to do it early and really tried to keep abreast of what was going on. When we temporarily closed our walk-in centers that I mentioned on Asheville Highway and Western Avenue, as businesses were closing, we made a decision to close temporarily at our centers, but we wanted to make sure that our customers, a large majority of the customers that come into that center are coming for payments. So we did start covering the cost of our third-party payment options that do come along with a fee. So our debit and credit card processor, there was a fee. Their kiosk in the community, there's a fee, and then payments at Kroger and Walmart stores have a fee attached with them. So we started covering those fees for customers so that they wouldn't have to worry about an additional expense. We also started waiving late fees for customers that were contacting us with bill payment concerns. So really, ultimately, our goal was just to alleviate any fear about having utilities or having to get out of their homes and spend extra money to make a payment if they were able to make a payment. We also really tried to limit the need to go inside of customer homes, but if we had to go inside, we made sure that our staff was properly equipped with PPE, and then of course had them to socially distance, and then, of course, asked our customers to do the same. And then ultimately what we really tried to do is increase our communication through social media, that we were basically here. We were here to help. Don't worry about your utilities right now. Worry about, applying for unemployment if you were in that situation, or trying to coordinate things with homeschool with your children. So really just focus on those things and not your utilities. And so we appreciated some of our community partners getting the word out about the things that we were doing, because we felt like that was critical at that time. And then, of course, came there's a need for money. So, project help, of course, wouldn't have been enough to meet all the needs during that time. And so we were really glad to hear that TVA was going to be providing community cares funds to local nonprofits that were assisting with pandemic-related issues. To get those funding, the local power provider had to apply for those funds on behalf of the nonprofit. So KUB, we did decide to apply for the full amount of grants that we could get for customers, for nonprofits that ultimately helped customers. There were 6 nonprofits serving a variety of different clients and different needs that we were able to provide those grants to. And you can see those nonprofits here on the left of the screen. And then KUB did match those grants for about $80,000 for 6 of the nonprofits. So I'm sorry, for 4 of the 6 nonprofits. And those were $20,000 grants. Those went to Central Hispano, the Compassion Coalition, the Urban League, and then Volunteer Ministries. And so our goal was just to make sure that the funds that were needed initially were there in the community, and those agencies that are used to serving the community had them available to help with things. So lots happened, and with all of that, we had to kind of take a look at our internal budgets and rates and things we could do to continue to serve customers. And so because of that, we postponed some of our infrastructure projects, which obviously is really important to us because continuing to provide safe and reliable utilities requires that investment in our systems. But we did postpone about $60 million in projects in April of 2020. And basically 10 million of that was in our electric division, 20 million in our water division, and 30 million in our wastewater division. And what we did is just slowly begin resuming those projects as we saw that we could. The disconnection moratorium, I see a question, did it apply to distressed businesses? It did. So it was actually for residential and commercial or business customers. So the moratorium was for all of our customers. So we understood that small businesses were struggling as well during that time. So like, as I said, we deferred those projects, but we've slowly started picking up those projects as we can. And we will continue to kind of monitor that and think about longer term projects that we can delay to ensure that we can lower future rate increases that were planned, because we did in fact delay some rate increases during this time as well, because we knew that it just would be have an adverse effect on our customers right now. So those were kind of the initial things we did. And then as we were beginning to take steps to kind of resume normal business in October, we knew we probably needed to stretch ourselves and do a little more. So we started by automatically enrolling customers in extended payment plans. So if a customer had a past due balance, residential or business, of $100 or greater, as of September 1st of 2020, we automatically set up those customers into a 3 to 15-month payment plan based on their account balance. And so we ended up putting about almost 20,000 customers into payment plans. And that really was just to ensure that they could pay back those balances over time and hopefully be connected to assistance dollars. And so we worked hard to get assistance dollars, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We also tried to make sure their internal credit rating that we have here at KUB wasn't impacted by late payments. And we also eliminated our $8 door notice fee as we were resuming disconnection, so there wouldn't be an additional charge for those customers. But ultimately, disconnection was our last resort. But if we had to do that, we did end up waiving the deposits requirements if someone had to reestablish service. So we really, really tried to make that our last resort and tried to find as many options as possible to assist customers.
Excuse me, Tiffany, when you mentioned eliminating the notice fee, I take it that when the pandemic is in our rearview mirror, that you're not going to bring that back, is that?
That's a great question, and I actually will have a note about that on the next slide, but you are correct. We decided not to bring back the door notice fees, and we also decided to not bring back the credit card fee. So if a customer is making a payment on our website or our mobile application or through our automated phone service, we are going to cover those fees for customers. So we did decide to continue with that. And as you can see here on this slide, a big majority of kind of some of the fees that we saved our customers was about 1.5 million in late fees. And then the other large contributor to savings for customers during this time was those payment processing fees. So a big portion of that will no longer be something that customers will need to pay in the future. I mentioned the automatic payment plans, and so I'll talk a little bit in more detail about those. Those plans basically allowed our customers to defer about $12.4 million in payments to us over that 3 to 15 month period. And so as you can see here, a large number of the accounts that were set up would have been paying those over a 3 to 6 month period. And many of those customers were able to do that, whether that meant they were able to do it or they were able to get connected to assistance funding to pay those things off. Right now, as of the end of January, there were about a little less than 50% of the payment plans still active. So around 9,000 payment plans are still intact, and customers are still paying on those plans. And as they need further assistance, we're working with them to extend the terms and try to get them through this period of time. one of the things I mentioned earlier was about communicating with our customers about what we were doing. And we really tried to focus heavily on communication during this time when we were setting up payment plans. We used direct mail. We sent postcards to those customers to talk about the payment plans. We also put information on our social media pages, on our website. We asked our community partners to get information out. And those direct communications were also to provide information about funding that was available in the community at the time. We knew customers would need to be directed to those funds. And so we worked really hard to make sure that those communication pieces also directed them to assistance dollars. And we think the word got out. We had several people able to get assistance dollars from April of 2020 through this past month. About $5.8 million was received in assistance dollars. And so that's great. Obviously, we knew that the payment plans were about $12.4 million. So we wanted to try to meet that need. And luckily, TVA was offering or announced in the fall of 2020 that they would be doing a pandemic relief credit for all of their local power companies to utilize as they saw fit to be able to recover from the pandemic. And so we decided to use that funding to create the CURE program. So that's the COVID utility relief effort. And we partnered with CAC to provide those assistance dollars to customers. And so it's a $6 million available to residential and business customers. And so that's a little unique. The question earlier about business customers, we definitely wanted to serve those small businesses that were impacted. And there weren't really a lot of programs out there to help business customers at the time. So we did make a concerted effort to make sure this would be available to business customers as well. Amy, it looks like you have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. You did see the question. Okay, yeah.
Do we charge interest rates? We do not. So those are interest free. We just simply took the balance and we actually first removed any late fees that had accrued since March of 2020. Then we took that remaining balance that was utility use and we just split it equally across whatever that term was, but no interest was added. So it was completely interest free for customers.
Hey, Tiffany, I have a question. So you mentioned before that some of the programs you guys use CAC to vet individuals and families who need assistance. Is there, so is that the similar methodology for the CURE program and also for commercial accounts?
Yes, we actually are using CAC to help us intake customers for the program on the residential and the business side of things. What's a little unique about this is we wanted the requirements for this program to be as simple as possible. We know that with a lot of the federal dollars and other funds, there are lots of documentation requirements and lots of stipulations with regard to impact. And so our goal here was really to make sure that those customers that had past due balances could be connected with assistance. So the application is really simple. You essentially don't have any income limits, whether business or an individual or family account. You must be a KUB electric customer because the funding did come from our electric division, but those funds can be paid towards the entire utility bill. Provide a photo ID, a copy of the past due bill, and really complete a very simple application. So CAC is helping us administer that, but the requirements are very minimal. A residential customer can receive up to $1,000 payment on a past due bill, and a business customer can receive up to a $3,000 of this program as much. There's about 150 businesses that have been served. And so we would appreciate you guys for getting the word out to some of those small businesses that are in dire need of utility assistance. We want this money to be utilized for those needs and those customers to not be worried about making a utility payment when these dollars are here. So we will send you guys some details of the program, something kind of easy to share with others, because we would really appreciate it if y'all could get the word out to those small businesses that are struggling.
I'm sorry, I have a quick follow-up. I won't take too much time, but one, have you guys reached out? Well, I guess you hopefully are reaching out to, for instance, Knoxville Area Urban League and other areas that, okay, so that's good. That's great. And then the other thing, I just want to put this, and I don't know if you guys have thought, after the funds for COVID relief, and it'd be interesting to think that just like the Rounded Up program, that individuals could choose to support distressed individuals and businesses on their bill, because that might be one clear driver to closing a huge inequality gap. And so giving customers the option to close it on a grassroots level might be very fascinating, might be very impactful.
Absolutely. And one way a customer can do that today is contributing to that Project Help Fund. You can do that today on your utility bill. So that's definitely something that can be done. And that really just helps with that emergency assistance with a bill payment that is needed. So I encourage you, if that is something that you're interested in, please do that. Feel free to reach out to us later. I can walk you through how to do that because those funds are definitely needed. So thank you for that suggestion.
Ms. Martin, Tiki Dixon, first of all, I want to say, wow, this is awesome what you're doing. But as a business-minded person too, I flipped the coin on the other side. How long can you all sustain this? Because your CFO has got to be pulling his or her hair out, trying to make sure that these budgets stay intact.
He definitely is, but he understands that balance between investment in our business and investment in our customers. So the things that we've done thus far, I think that this is where we will kind of stay. I don't see us taking any further measures at this point, but we feel like we're going to continue to work with customers and try to direct them to every bit of assistance funding that we can find in the community. So once that $6 million is gone, we will continue to point them to other assistance resources. And so we've recently heard that there will be some additional funding that's going to come into our community for rental and utility bill assistance. And so as we hear more about that, we'll start directing customers there. But your question is a great one. We definitely had to think about the balance. And that's why we delayed some of those programs and infrastructure upgrades that we were planning, because we knew that then we had to kind of step back into those things slowly because of all the measures that we'd taken to assist our customers. So I appreciate you for recognizing that. We definitely want to be a community servant, but there are definitely balances that have to be made to continue to run the utility as well.
Really, thank you. Thanks, Tiffany. I just wanted to say that I appreciate hearing the details of that program. During the pandemic, the Sierra Club was out advocating a suspension of shutoff policy around the state. And we used Knoxville as an example of a utility that was really doing it right. Thanks so much for the presentation.
Well, I appreciate those accolades. We appreciate that. Well, that's really all I had to present today, but I definitely want to leave time for any other questions that you all may have from my presentation.
No, we've had a few along the way. Does anybody else have any other thing they'd like to ask Tiffany? Of course, we have Aaron along who has commented, and want to make sure that Barbara Kelly gets recognized on behalf of CAC. They've been a terrific partner on all the weatherization implementation where the rubber hits the road as well. I don't know if Barbara has anything she'd like to add, or anybody else does at this time. Well, terrific. I think at least I want to express my appreciation for the great presentation, Ms. Martin, and for all the work that KUB has done being proactive in this field, especially during the pandemic, and even making some changes to some policies that I know you're aware of that have been difficult for some people, like the the notice fee and that sort of thing, the door hanger fee. So thank you very much. I want to mention before we do go that the April meeting will include an overview of the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. Key projects and programs supported by that budget will be included as well. So as you know, the budget really is where policy meets dollars and priorities are made real. So I'm really looking forward to this presentation. I know the rest of you will as well. If there's nothing else, I think we can give everybody about 20 hard-earned minutes that they otherwise wouldn't have in their lives. And if
I have a comment real
Sure.
quick, if that's okay, or a request rather. Would it be possible to make publicly available the statistics of, or like an update of disconnections and past due balances by census tract? This is something that members of the community that or communities that I represent would be really interested in seeing.
Good point.
Christina, that's a great question. And I'm not sure if you're involved with a group that I've been working with to kind of pull that information together. So I am working to provide that. We've had some export issues with some of the census tract information, but yes, we're working to provide that to some community partners, because we know that that information is utilized in other reports and research efforts. So we are going to provide that. There's not a plan at this point to provide it on our website or provide like a regular report, but we are going to continue to work with those partners.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I never did welcome Coral to join us. So I'm glad you were able to. Thanks for becoming part of this presentation. And looks like Asib is doing a little parenting work there. So
yeah, a little bit. This is everyone meet Abriana, or Anna for short. Abriana Kate Qureshi. She is one of two identical twins who turned 5 months yesterday. She is fussy. You might not hear her because I've got you guys on my headset in my ear, but she's listening to piano music right now that usually calms her down, but right now it's amping her up.
Oh, okay.
Anna had a quick little statement. Tiffany, have you guys reached out to small business, to SBDC, and to, Mike at the chamber about distributing information for distressed businesses?
That's a great question. We have made the chamber aware, but any help, Mr. Odom or Mike, you can provide to us, and ideas on how to reach out to those businesses is much appreciated.
Yeah, I know we've included. I'm sorry, Tiffany, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
We have included it in not only our email but also social media stuff with it too. So we appreciate very much you guys passing along to us.
Okay.
Bill, thank you for the shout out for parenting. Anyone who's a parent.
You bet. Always glad to give a shout out.
God.
You bet. Well, okay. If nobody else has anything, I guess we can adjourn tonight, and I look forward to discussing the fiscal 2022 budget next time. And again, thanks all of you for taking time out of your evenings. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. And thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Good night.